motherfuckers. Taxi.
Okay, man, we're looking around.
This is the 77 WABC minicast.
And tonight, President Trump taking the fight back to Iran, continuing to pound targets for another night in a row. And here is the president, because he says they're not messing around.
Do you anticipate that the strikes we're seeing this week against Iran will expand? Are you considering hitting energy targets or other locations inside of Iran?
I'll save the energy targets for last, but ultimately we'll hit energy targets, yeah. But we're going to hit them very hard tonight. We're going to hit them very hard tomorrow night. We're going to hit them very hard the night after. And then next week it gets really bad for them, because next week comes the power plants. Next week comes the bridges. We're going to knock out all their power plants. We're going to knock out all their bridges unless they get to the table and negotiate.
And you just heard it there, him saying next week we will be hitting the energy sites. If that doesn't send chills down the spine of the folks there in Iran, the mullahs, I'm not sure anything does. But if anything is a threat to them, it's the thought that President Trump is going to really hit them where it hurts. Welcome to the Rita Cosby Show on a busy Tuesday night. President Trump, you could tell, is clearly fed up big time with Iran. And so is Netanyahu, for that matter. Netanyahu was asked a little bit ago what he thinks is set to happen. And he said, listen, if there's any action against us, our response next time will be stronger and much tougher than they have ever seen before. And let's not forget, it's the Israelis that were providing some of the intel that took out that strike that took out 40 people. Remember, on day one of this latest round, it's the Israelis that obviously had all that information on the pagers. Remember, it's the Israelis that went into Iran and took out some of the proxy leaders in hotel rooms and elsewhere. So these people don't mess around. And you could tell that President Trump and Netanyahu both are fed up and ready to really pound Iran. And just a few hours ago, the naval blockade started. And that's a really big deal, because they're going to lose about $400 million a day, Iran is, with this naval blockade, because the U.S. came out and said the only ships that will not be able to go through the Strait of Hormuz are Iranians, or ones that are bringing oil to and from Iran. So if you're another kind of international company and country, and you're trying to do business with Iran and some shadow dark fleet, that ain't going to work either. And the U.S. is going to stop you. And you can bet that President Trump will really hit them hard if indeed he finds out that folks are trying to skim on the side and trying to do some deals with Iran. So is it kindly, I guess, the time where President Trump is saying, this is it, enough. We are really going to let loose. And it seems that him and Netanyahu are both on the same page, that they are both equally fed up. President Trump feeling like the Iranians have lied to him at every single turn. He definitely seems to have their number, and he clearly feels that they cannot be trusted. And it's time to really, really pay a price. And yet, here is Congressman Tim Burchett. He is Republican from Tennessee. And he feels that the end may not be the pounding of energy plants or other things. He actually feels, he uses the phrase, regime change. Listen to this.
It's not ever going to end until we get down to, we get a regime change down to somebody that we can do business with. And they're going to have to get away from the religious leaders, I think, and get a military leader to run the country.
So he's basically saying it needs to have some form of regime change. Somehow no longer sort of these military individuals in charge. I actually would like to see a big regime change, because this regime you can't trust. Even the, quote, civilized ones that President Trump was hoping were more civilized than the others clearly cannot be trusted. They are not to be dealing with. They're sort of the same. And I think a lot of this is sort of like just kind of, oh, look, he did this. Oh, no, he did this. It's a game to these people. They just don't get it. They clearly are just kind of bouncing the can down the road, playing the same game that they've played with America. And what they don't realize clearly, I think they realize because the B-2 bombers came in pretty loud and clear, and the other bombing came in pretty loud and clear. But still, they need to realize that President Trump is not going to be patient for long. And I think he's been incredibly patient. He clearly did not want this war. He clearly felt that he had to do it for world survival, for the Mideast survival, for Israel's survival, for ultimately America's survival, for future generations. And I commend him on that, you guys. But I do think it's time to finish the job. And clearly, I think President Trump is realizing that too.